Adventurers! In today's video, we're going to be going over playing an evil character in a campaign, different ways of doing it, tips, and also a little story as well. Let's get into this. So yes, it is I, Nathaniel Gomezian, shopkeeper and proprietor of Gaming Treasure Chest. And so in today's video we're going to be going through playing an evil character in a campaign, a few different ways that you can do it, a couple of tips to go along with that, and as I said, at the end there's a story of a campaign that I was in which had an evil player character and was an amazing story, and I'm so glad that I was a part of that campaign, even though I wasn't the evil character. So let's get into this. I'm going to start by saying one of the best ways to play an evil player character is when the whole party are playing evil player characters, because the whole campaign idea is that you are the bad guys and you are facing off against the good guys. So instead of having a BBG, you have a BGHE, a big good hero guy. And it can be a great, fun, different way of running a campaign, because obviously you're used to being the hero, so sometimes it is fun to play the bad guys for a campaign. But obviously the whole group has to be behind this idea, and obviously the DM has to agree to be able to run this, because it can be very hard to run a whole evil kind of campaign, especially when not everyone's on board. So as I said, it has to be something where everyone is unanimous they want to do this, to run this kind of campaign. There's different ways that you can do this kind of story-wise. It can be that maybe you're all working under a great overlord or a demon of some sort who wants you to do evil things, and so you're kind of like doing it for them. It can be that you're all part of an organisation and the big bad dies, and you guys might all just be working together trying to keep the reputation and name of your evil company instead, because the main guy's now dead, and so you guys are kind of taking over and becoming the new kind of big bad together. It can be that somehow the heroes end up crossing your path in a way which is negative, and so you want to fight these guys, but it turns out that they're just trying to get something to face some other big bad, and that can be a fun way of then, when you interact with their big bad, whether you decide to team up with them or fight them as well, and then you kind of fight in a war on three fronts with the actual other big bad heroes and obviously you being part of the group. So there are many different ways that you can do it, and there's a lot of fun ways that you can do it where you can all be a party of bad guys, basically burning down orphanages, you understand. But that's not for everyone, so here are a few different ways that you can play like evil characters, if you like, different types of them. So let's get into those. Now firstly, it's very important to point out it is very difficult to pull off being an evil player character without pissing off the rest of the group. But sometimes that comes down to what your definition of evil is. Because good and evil is kind of subjective compared to different people's experiences and whatnot, so it's hard to really determine that, but a lot of people think it's just about killing everyone you see and pissing everyone off. And that's not really the best way to play an evil character, because you're just going to piss off the rest of the party and no one's going to want to play with you or your character, is basically what's going to end up happening. So you've got to do it in a way which works with everyone. So most of the time, what people mean by an evil character is somebody who's really selfish and only cares about their own ambitions and not anyone else's, and just achieving them. And the problem is, obviously, most of the times, D&D, you're in a party, you're in a group of people, so you can't really do that without pissing off everyone else. So you have to try and find ways that make it work. One quite important thing that you can do is creating bonds with the other members of the party, being it if they've saved your life, if you've saved their life, if you strive towards the same goals, basically something where there's a reason why you are with these people and working with them. It's very important to do that, because they're working out the perfect way of like characterizing that you are with these group of people and you do have to work together. Sometimes you might disagree with little things and ways of doing things, but you have to kind of get around that. Maybe it could be like if you really want to kill people and the party wants to keep them alive, in terms of when it comes to questioning evildoers and such, you could be like, okay, fine, look, I really want to kill this guy, but I understand that you want to question him and whatnot, so here's what we'll do. We question this one, I get to kill the next one, or something along those lines, some kind of compromise, and it has to be that the other party members do agree with this thing. So number one, and the main thing that has to happen when you're playing an evil character, is you have to make sure it's okay with the DM. Messaging them beforehand and speaking to them, explain, look, I want to play an evil player character, is essential to playing an evil player character, because the DM does have to be on board with it, because they can maneuver situations and storylines to work around the idea of you wanting to be an evil character, but only if they know. If you go in there not letting them know and then you just turn up and be like, I'm just going to be a dick from day one, like, it's not going to work. So getting the DM on board is always one of the first steps in becoming an evil player character. And obviously, if it's going to be open to the rest of the group, explain it to everyone in session 0 saying like, look, I kind of want to play an evil player character, but let's try and see how we can make this work with the group, because I know that you guys probably want to do something else, so let's try and work out how this can be done with different bonds that we can have between our characters and such. It is also important to know that because an evil character is doing things for selfish reasons most of the time, it doesn't mean that they can't do good. People can do good things, but with the intention of bad and selfish results. By that I mean, so for example, you could save a town from like some other big bad or like a dragon or something, or just like from whatever's going on in the town, and instead of you doing it because like you're selfish and want to be heroic, you're doing it because you want to get paid and you want the accolades which come from it, like you want the status which comes from like being like, you know, like liked, but you're not doing it because you want to be liked, you're doing it so that you can parade it and be magnificent above everyone else. So there can be selfish reasons behind doing good things, so that's very important to keep in mind. Let's get into a few different types of evil character. So obviously you've got the kind of anti-hero, your kind of Wolverine. The problem with like Wolverine as a character in general is that he is a loner most of the time, and that although he is part of the X-Men, he mostly goes off and does his own thing, and obviously that doesn't work in a D&D thing, and also most of the time he can be quite dickish to other members like Cyclops and whatnot. Don't get it wrong, he's a magnificent character and I love him, but in a D&D story campaign kind of thing, it doesn't really work. You can still be that kind of gruff, like, you know, kind of hard to approach character, but as I said, you've got to do it in a way where you can still interact and be a part of the team, as well as being a kind of loner, if you like. But you can kind of make an anti-hero work if you do it in the right way, because the end goal is that they are still a hero, but still a hero nonetheless. One of the best ways to play an evil character is where they slowly become evil, whereby they start off with good intentions, but the different things that happen along the way in the adventure shape them to become evil, rather than when they like kind of go down in battle and like come back and they're like revitalized by that fact that they're back and continue to be a hero. Like they can start to be, okay, right, I died and went down, I never want this to happen again, I'm going to strive to do everything possible to stop that from happening, and they can kind of like go down the way of becoming a lich. All the different things that happen in the campaign that you're in, as you're finding more and more out about the bad guy that you're against as a party, you start to sympathize with and understand why they're doing what they're doing, and you kind of start to go down that reasoning of thought yourself. One of the good things about this type of evil player is that you can start to actually like put in seeds of doubt and whatnot, and like what you're feeling in terms of, oh, maybe we're wrong, maybe this guy is right, the bad guy that we're against, and then you can have the other people trying to argue, trying to save you, and there can always be a chance that they could persuade you round. But if you've decided, okay, right, I want to go down this route of slowly but surely the different things that happen to us along the campaign, I'm going to get worse and worse and worse, that could be a really fun way of becoming the evil character, because at the end of the campaign, whatever happens, you end up doing something which then like turns the whole party against you. If you then return to that setting or that world, your character could be the new BBG that the DM then takes control of, and can just be really fun because then it gives that memory of that last campaign to your players, and it can be a very fun way to experience the great storytelling that is D&D. Of course, if you're going to go down that route, as I've said before, it's very important to explain to the DM that this is something that you want to do from the start. Be like, look, I want to slowly let my character deteriorate and become bad or evil, because your DM, if they're okay with it, and to which they can facilitate this fact with different plot points and different things that can lead you down that rabbit hole, without the other players potentially knowing what's happening. Now this one kind of closely relates to the last one in a manner of speaking, and that's being the secret evil character. Now, unlike the last one whereby you slowly progress and go down this rabbit hole and become the evil person, this can be that you were evil all along, but you were keeping it secret from the rest of the party. Now again, at the beginning, it's very important to explain to the DM that this is what you want to do, that you want to play an evil character, you're going into this being an evil character, and that hopefully they're okay with it and will facilitate this working. As I said, yet again, DM's always got to have consent with these kind of things. But if done right, it can be amazing, and it can be things along the lines of you can secretly message the DM secret things that you want to be doing in the background when things are happening, and then you can then let them know roles secretly, especially if you're doing online. It's going to be a little bit harder if you're at a table with everyone else, but if you're playing an online game, which a lot of people do these days, then that can be something which like you can incorporate in. You can still do it at a table, it's just a lot harder to do. So at night time when the other players are sleeping, you could go out and maybe kill somebody or something along those lines, but you'll be doing it secretly through roles and not saying it out loud, so the other players have no idea what's going on. Like you can message the DM and be like, look, this is what I want to do. They might get you to roll for it, like a stealth check to move away from the rest of the party, and like potentially you might fail that, and the DM might be like, oh, okay, this character wakes up and they see that you are up and about, but like there might be a reason why, like, you know, you're up a little bit earlier than everyone else, and you kind of like have to play off of that to try and keep it hidden. And I will say it is a lot of hard work to try and pull off, but I have a story about an evil player character who was a secret evil player character and what happened in the end with that story. So let's go over to story time. Ah, hello there. You're probably wondering why the hell I've got a smoking jacket on when I don't smoke and I've lost the jacket. But anyway, we're here because I'm going to tell you a story of a campaign I was in many moons ago, which had an evil player character. So, the year was 1643. No, right, So yes, I'm going to tell you a very brief story about a campaign that I was in where there was an evil player character, not played by me, was played by another player, but it was done so well. And it's the fact that they were an evil character, but none of us knew they were an evil character till we reached the end of the campaign arc. And so I'm going to tell you the story because I just think it's an amazing story and I'm so glad that I was a part of it. For context, we weren't actually playing D&D, we were playing a roleplay game, which was a creation of our DM still to this day. But at the time, he was coming up with a system himself that was called Broken Star. It's a shame he never continued with it because it actually was a really nice system, but sadly he did not decide to continue with it, which is a shame, but this story came out of it, so let's get through it. So the campaign setting of Broken Star was set in space, surprisingly enough, and with different planets, different races, all that jazz. Our group came together as like mercenaries who were all working together to do space contracts. Like, you know, just throw the word space in front of things and it ends up working, right? And through doing one of these contracts, we ended up bringing in some evil drug baron guy, and we took his ship, and basically that's how we ended up getting a ship so that we could travel around ourselves to different planets and whatnot, and go on different adventures all over the galaxy. Through our misadventures, we ended up finding out about this kind of cult thing who was trying to bring back like a prime evil, if you like. It was like a god of destruction and death kind of thing, like trying to bring back like an avatar of them was what was going on. So through investigating and missions here, missions there, we ended up getting to the end kind of battle kind of thing, whereby this cult was trying to do this ritual. It kind of a bit was like the vampire thing in Baldur's Gate 3, whereby they were trying like to sacrifice different lives on different plimps and whatnot, and like there was a big central kind of column thing where like all these sacrifices, like their souls or energy was going towards kind of thing. So we were trying to save people who were involved in this ritual, trying to stop the cultists who were battling us, trying to stop us from stopping them, and it all culminated in one of the player characters ended up on the central platform where this was all going on, basically like the person who was trying to absorb like the god of destruction and death's kind of like her essence to become the avatar was, and he beat them up and knocked them out of the way, and so we were like, oh phew, that's all over. But what happened was the DM then explained that like the player character was in the central platform where this was all going on, this ritual was going on, and they could hear a voice in their head, and it was basically like a voice saying like, I can give you power, I can give you everything you've ever wanted. All you have to do is submit and become this avatar kind of thing. And we were all like, huh, it's gonna be fine, he's gonna say no and it's gonna be all good. But without hesitation, no rolls, no nothing, he just says, yes, I accept. It blew all of our minds in terms of what the fuck. So what ended up happening is we ended up escaping, and that was the end of that campaign. We were hoping to pick it up again with that player character basically becoming the big bad that like then the DM would control and we were going to be against them, but sadly timings and things, life ended up getting in the way of that, so we never actually revisit. Plus obviously the DM decided not to continue with the system, but it's a shame because it was such a good story and how the lead up and build up to how we got there, and suddenly them just saying, yes, I will become the embodiment of evil, and it taken us all completely by surprise because they were the evil character secretly, and there were certain little bits along the way which should have tipped us off to this, and I'll explain what happened. So on one of the missions that we were in, we were trying to protect this person who we knew basically people were coming to kill him. So we set up in his apartment kind of thing. Some of us set up kind of outside, and some of us set up like basically so that we were ready for people to come in and basically kill this guy. This player character said that, oh, don't you worry, I'll be in the room with them. I'll hide like under the bed and I'll be there like just in case somebody comes in. Basically, some people tried to come in through the front door. We stopped them, questioned them, beat them up and whatnot, and stopped them from basically killing this guy. We come back up to the room to find the guy dead in his bed, and when we asked the player who's in there what happened, he's like, I don't know, I think a bullet came from the window, and actually what the window was smashed. So we went over to investigate to see what was going on, and we did roll for like a kind of investigation check to see what was happening. And it's really funny because our DM does a really smart thing, and he's really good with doing this. Like, I wish that I had this ability when being a DM, because I know that I need to adapt it because it's really good with giving us quite a bit of information and hiding what we should be paying attention to within the big thing. Like basically he was like, because we were investigating trying to see if we could work out where the bullet came from, so he was explaining about the different buildings that were nearby and like, you know, which ones you think could have come from the angle that this hole is in the window. He did also explain, like very sneakily, that the glass was actually on the outside of the window, like the glass smashed outward kind of thing. And we were all just trying to think, oh crap, where could the shooter have been? Could it have been that building? Could it have been that building? Never thinking about the fact that the glass was actually on the outside, which the DM and the player both said that at that moment in the campaign, because this was a long time back in the campaign, that they were relieved that none of us actually figured that out, because obviously that would have really derailed the whole plans immediately, because we'd be like, wait a minute, but we never worked that out. Basically, the player had killed the person in the room and smashed the window themselves, but obviously none of us had figured that out. Because the way this campaign was actually done was we were actually all in the same room. This was back when we all had time to actually get together in a room together. So none of us had the thought that he would have done something else, because obviously we would have thought he would have said something to the DM like, oh, I'm doing this. And obviously we never heard anything like that. So what reason was there to suspect? It turns out that the DM and this player had planned this from like the minute that they'd started, that he said, I want to play a bad character, but I want to do it secretly. And what was happening was they were actually sending messages to each other on Facebook Messenger, like at the table, because admittedly that friend was always on the phone, which can be a bad thing, but like he was always like there when he needed to, and he always like was retaining information, so none of us really cared. Like, as long as we're all having fun, that's the main thing. But we never questioned why he was like on his phone quite a bit. And he would sometimes make random rolls, like he would just be rolling the dice randomly, but he had made it into a bit of a habit that he would just roll dice, and then when we'd question him, oh, what you do? He's like, oh, I'm just getting the bad rolls out of the way, or something like that is what he would say. Like, but he would come up with excuses as to why he was doing it, and it became such a habit that none of us actually really bothered to question it after a time. But it turned out that what he was doing was, when he was writing down something that his player was doing on Facebook sneakily, the DM was always looking at it and would tell him to make a roll, and then he would let him know what he rolled, kind of thing, like on things. So none of us ever, this was like before, because we think about it, this is something you could do very easily on an online game, but this was not an online game. This was a physical game where we were all in the room together, and so that's another reason why it was so masterfully pulled off. There was also another time when we were doing an interrogation with somebody who we weren't getting the information that we wanted, or we thought we could push them harder, and this character basically went crazy and ended up like stabbing them or started killing them in front of us, and we just thought, he just got a little bit over the top in the interrogation kind of thing. Like, none of us ever thought, oh crap, he's the bad guy. Like, he's a bad guy. But looking back on it, there's certain elements like those kind of stories whereby, and there was other things, I won't go into all of them, otherwise, like I said, if I were to explain this whole campaign and everything that happened, it would be like hours and hours. But it was an amazing story and an amazing campaign to be in. Like, the fact that it actually still holds such a great place in my memory just as a testament to how well the campaign was crafted and how well that player played an evil character secretly, and that's why I think that's one of the best ways to do it. But the only reason it really worked was because of the synergy between the DM and that player to make it happen. Because they were specifically making sure that they weren't seeming evil to us, like the different actions and whatnot that they were doing in front of us wouldn't have been interpreted as being evil. It was kind of sneaky behind the scenes stuff that like none of us knew was happening, and but if we'd paid enough attention, we could have actually spotted certain things. But as I said, we never thought to question him. I will say that this player character has said that they would never do this again, mostly because it was a lot of stress for them, and also they think they'd never be able to pull anything off as great as it again, because we'll obviously always suspect them of potentially being the bad person. So it's only something you can really do once if you're doing like a secret bad guy. But if done right, it's an amazing story that you will want to tell everyone what happens. Anyway, back to other me. Thank you for watching and listening to this video. I hope that you found some bits of insightfulness that you could potentially use if you want to play an evil player character. And if you do, please let me know down in the comment section down below, because I'd love to hear your ideas, and if you end up playing an evil player character, how it goes for you, because it's amazing. I did put out a short asking about evil player characters. I did get some nice responses, and it was some good times hearing some of the stories. So if you didn't post on that one and would want to put an evil player character story down below, I'd love to read that in the comments as well. Or if there's any other kind of like tips and whatnot that you have for people, yeah, again, put them there. But yes, I hope you enjoyed yourself. If you want to support the channel, then please hit that like button, subscribe, all that nonsense. And also, we have a Discord channel, so if you want to join that, please feel free to, because I'd like to make a lovely community that we are doing here. So hop into that if you like. Also, if you want to help out the channel, why not consider visiting the Etsy store of Gaming Treasure Chest, where you can get your hands on loads of different 3D printed stuff, be it weaponry or other D&D things that can hold dice and such. But again, just thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed your time here. I hopefully see you in the next one. So until next time, goodbye!